afterwards. Make sure. Happy Thursday, everybody! Welcome to the Motor City Mad Mouth Show. I am on a jet plane headed to Detroit. No, maybe not, but the closest thing to it, I have my longtime brother from another mother, Trevor Thompson, on the broadcast. What a dream come true when I have T Squared on the show.
Scott, it's a pleasure to be with you. It's good to see you with so much energy. I know you've been battling all kinds of illnesses, but your spirit is irrepressible. I just admire you so much for everything that you do to keep on keeping on. And you're one of my heroes, guys. So it's great to be on with you.
Well, you're my hero. So that's all there is to it. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have a disease that an operation can't fix. I've had more operation, but I do have a game over at the toy store called Operation. All you need to do is buy it over at Walmart. And I've had like 29 of the darn thing, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But
and you still keep going. It's amazing to watch you work, guy. It really is.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Hey, listen, I feel like the Energizer Bunny anyways doing this stuff. I got to keep it real. And that's why we do all this crazy stuff. But anyways, Trevor Thompson, longtime colleague and friend of mine, one of the closest people I actually have in my life. He really, really is. When I think of family members, Trevor Thompson is truly at the top of the food chain when it comes to people like him. And every time I get sick or anything, he's always there to wishing me prayers and all that. So to have an opportunity to spend some time this evening with him, to me, is just unbelievable. So, all right, Trevor, let's talk about your background for those of you that are getting to know you a little bit. Let's talk about, well, just give us a little background about your sportscasting and your life, and just in general for those getting to know you for the first time.
Well, I'm 25 years here now in Detroit, Scott. I moved here in May of 2000 to join Fox Sports with the regional sports reports, covering everything that moved around here. At that time, we did all kinds of high school stuff. We followed Michigan State whenever they would go to the Rose Bowl or the Sweet 16, national championships, all that kind of thing. High school sports, golf that would come to town, the auto races that would come to town, everything that moved here at that time. And then for the last 15 years, I guess it's more focused on the pro sports, and we've had the rights to the Tigers and the Pistons and the Red Wings. Also did some Lions coverage back in the day, and I am now on the side doing a podcast, Believe in Lions, right now, which has been a lot of fun. So the last 25 years have been spent here in Detroit, and I grew up on an hour the other side of the border. So I knew everything Detroit. I grew up watching the Wings and the Tigers and the Pistons play. I had a great opportunity along the way to work with George Blaha, who was one of my childhood idols. So to get to work with him on air was one of those dream come true, pinch me moments in my career, because I grew up so close and watching those teams on the other side of the border. But prior to that, I worked in Toronto for 3 years with CTV Sportsnet, covering the Maple Leafs, covering the Raptors, the Argonauts, the Blue Jays. It was a lot of fun covering everything in Toronto. And then I was out in Vancouver also for 3 years, working with the Canucks and the Grizzlies when they were out there as an in-house reporter for, at the time, it was Orca Bay Sports and Entertainment. So I started in the business on Hockey Night in Canada. That's way back when, 1992. Ron McLean gave me my very first job as a runner on Hockey Night in Canada. So I got to work with Ron McLean and Don Cherry at the time. And then it all took off from there. So we're going back well over 30 years, 35 years. It almost sounds like you're talking like about someone else when you just recount those number of years and all those experiences. But it's been one hell of a ride that I could never have imagined when it all started out, from where I grew up in a town of 2,500, Dresden, Ontario, just about an hour and a half from Detroit. So it's been great to be close to home. It's been great to have an opportunity to cover teams I watched as a kid. And now near the end of the career, at least the job at the network, Fox, what was once Fox Sports, is over. Now I'm looking for new opportunities. But looking back, it was just a hell of a ride, guy.
Let me tell you something. I can't believe you're making these Vancouver references. I actually had a chance to cover a Canucks game over at the Pacific Coliseum, and I ended up meeting Dave Hodge over there. And Darcy Rhoda, I think, was the actual PR guy up there. So that's unbelievable. I got to hang out with Dave Hodge. And I know, they did have the Vancouver Grizzlies back in the day when they had the NBA team. Very few people realize that we know about the Canucks. And of course, John Saunders is a guy that you had an opportunity to get to know as well. So what was it like for you?
Fantastic person rather.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. Tell me what it was like working with Johnny.
He was just such a true pro, but a gentleman. And working with him, he was someone I'd watched on TV, and then to have a chance to work with him again, one of those pinch me moments that you're doing something you've never even conceived possible. But there I am working on broadcast with him, covering the Vancouver Grizzlies, learning from him, being mentored a bit by him. But I found out when the game was over and we shut down production and went for a meal and a drink, just a wonderful, wonderful person, and a guy who had a big passion for hockey. Another Canadian who made his name on the American side of the border, and just a guy I always looked up to because of the person that he was and the broadcaster, the professional that he was, and he's dearly.
Yeah, he actually played for the Western Michigan Broncos. I'm actually wearing a shirt, Western Michigan Broncos, so in honor of John Saunders, and they actually won a championship this past year with no NIL or any of that. That's just an unbelievable thing in itself. So unbelievable how you can reminisce. It's funny how you and I, as we get a little bit older, we know that the end of our careers are what they are. But I have no regrets because I realize that the access is really starting to dwindle. The industry's changing. I feel bad for the younger people getting into business. You and I have had a chance to work with it when it's really been good. It really has. Now this younger generation, we got in at the right time, and I have a feeling we're kind of getting out of it a little bit and backing off at the right time. Don't you agree?
Well, everything's changed so much, and you think back to like 25 years ago when I first started here in Detroit, for example. A podcast was a name that wasn't even invented at the time. These kinds of things weren't happening. But now anybody who has a passion, a television, a microphone can be a reporter, can have their own voice, can be a podcaster, a broadcaster. And you go inside the dressing rooms now and everybody's recording their post-game interviews on cell phones and distributing it on the internet instantly. So nobody tunes in to things like the old Detroit Sports Report. We're using that class right now, but that's what we called our news show back in the day. Nobody tunes into those things anymore. No one really tunes into Sports Center. You just go on, get the highlights you want. Everybody consumes it over their tablet or their cell phone. Nobody really sits and watches an entire game anymore. The newspaper is archaic. You can't find a newspaper. Everybody goes on the internet and finds what they want. But those days of opening up the sports page, going through the box score from the night before, those are all bygone days. And our day, when every camera guy carried a camera around on his shoulder and guys blew their shoulders out over careers lugging those heavy things around, those days are gone as well. Now everything's on a little card like this, and you stick it in the machine and you run and you go, and there's no more a live truck. Remember the live trucks, the mobile satellite trucks that used to be at all the news scenes or all the sporting events? Those things are gone. So much has changed. The industry is so different right now, and the way people consume their sports and their content is so different right now that this business is barely recognizable. Better or for worse, I won't really call it. It's just changing times, but it certainly is a lot different. The people are a lot different. The motives are a lot different. The people who have access are a lot different. You don't need access to have a voice. All that has changed as well. And really, if you think about it, Scott, too, a lot of the athletes do their own branding right now, thanks to social media. They get on their own Instagram page or they get on their own Twitter page and they show you behind the scenes of their life, their kids, whatever it might be, their own thoughts they can share that way. So they really don't need the media in that sense as well. So that's been a big change as well. So yeah, the world's changing. The way sports broadcasting is growing has certainly changed. You have to adapt with it, accept it, and change and show your ability to reinvent yourself. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind. So you have to keep up with the times. But yeah, things are definitely a whole lot different than they were years and years ago when you were here in the Motor City with me, my friend.
Oh, I know. I'm telling you, when we were on, we felt like it was a privilege to be there. We didn't take what we do for granted. Now, the way I look at it is nothing against the generation, but I like it when we were there because we took everything seriously. We believed in post-game interviews and grinding out and all that. Like even Tom Gage, I had him on a few weeks ago, and he says, one thing I loved about you, Scott, is the way you used to go out there and hang out by the batting cage and get people's ear and get information. Calls me industrious, which is really kind of neat that Tommy would say that. And he said, why didn't you ever get into play-by-play? You got the voice for it. Never. I didn't have the names like Buck, Kerry, and all these other guys where I could get my foot in the door. I had to do it the old-fashioned way, scrap for every chance I got to do that. So what am I going to do? Right. And now I get to do this stuff like with everybody else. But the reality of the situation is this, Trevor. I mean, I could be a play-by-play guy. Let me be a darn good one-on-one interview, for God's sake. and go ballistically behind the mic with all his energy, and nobody will know. One of my pupils is actually in the chat room named Jeremy Ballrick. He says, "Good evening. I'm one of those, Trevor." And it's how I started writing for me. The South Florida Tribune is a digital publication. And the way I ended up going out there and doing this is I had the foresight to understand that these things are going out. So I went digital before I even had to go print. And that's how I was able to get, because I knew all the industry experience I had was print's going away. I mean, everybody knows. So that's why we decided to do it this way. We started with print, then added the broadcast stuff later. And he says, I have a voice for radio and a face to match. He's modest. He's a good guy. He's one of the guys I've trained. And Jeremy's definitely gone a long way. But you're right, Trev. There's no question about it that, it's great when you and I work together. It was just for real. It really was the way we understand what, that's why I wrote a book, Trevor, Old School versus New School Lessons from Microphone, which, by the way, you are in it. And I will get you a copy. And my goal is to make sure I get it in person. If I can't, Candy's going to mail it to you. But my goal is to get it to you in person, because then I get a hug with it. I can't do any of this business. So as we continue on, let's talk about the Lions a little bit. And I'm going to be jumping all over the place a little bit. When it's all said and done, we're going to leave no stones unturned. Barry Sanders obviously had 99 career rushing touchdowns and never spiked the ball once. That to me is just unheard of. But that Barry Sanders, man.
What an amazing guy. And to watch his documentary, Barry, it was fascinating. And he's such a humble guy. And you see him around town still to this day. Such a humble guy, such a likable guy, a golf fanatic. I've seen him on the golf course as well, even in the summer in passing at a charity event. The guy's still giving back of his time. But I think one of the things I admired most about them is the way he played the game with such humility. And when I watched the documentary, he talked about his dad was the one who kept him humble, because his dad continued to tell him throughout his career, no matter what he did, you're not better than Jim Brown, So there's always somebody better. There's always someone who came before you who you have to pay that kind of homage and respect to. But certainly Jim Brown was a great one. But I do believe and will always contend that Barry Sanders was the best to ever do it. Certainly the best I saw with my own two eyes.
Well, I have four, so I believe that too. I'll take Barry Sanders over Emmitt Smith all day long, considering the offensive line he had to play behind.
Yes, and speaking of documentaries, have you watched that one? America's Team, the one about the Dallas Cowboys with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson and Emmitt Smith and the whole crew that it went through 8 episodes of it. It was fabulous TV watching for sure. But you can give me Barry Sanders over Emmitt Smith any day.
Well, I actually met Jerry Jones back in Phoenix a long time ago. And here's what happened. I talked to Jerry when Kansas City wanted to go ahead and take away that Thanksgiving game. And Jerry Jones and I asked Jerry about this. Jerry, can I ask you a question? Because he's really nice to me. Jerry will talk to anybody because that's the kind of person he is. I've seen Emmitt Smith, all these guys. Jerry, don't let the Lions lose that Thanksgiving game. Just don't do it. He said, no, you don't have to worry about it. I'll make sure nothing happens. Detroit will not lose it. And what do you think happens? Okay. They ended up coming up with a night game. By the way, Jeremy's going out there and definitely promoting his YouTube channel. This guy loves you, man. He said, kneecap fighting with Motor City Lions. He's trying to promote it. He's enjoying this show. I follow Scott with Fire Up and with Katie and Scott's wife. So tell me I didn't train this Jeremy Ballrick right. I'm telling you, this guy knew you were coming on here, knowing he's following you. So, all right, Jeremy, Trevor knows who you are. Maybe one of these days I'll get him back on. I'll bring you on, but this is for him and I tonight. But you, at least you're the unofficial third guy in here, knowing that you're out there commenting in the chat room, which is greatly. Don't worry, Trevor's got your eyes and he got your attention. But as far as Jerry Jones is concerned, no, I'll go ahead and take Barry all day long. But at least the one thing I say about Jerry, though, the Lions were never going to lose that Thanksgiving game, and he told me that. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't bet against this guy anyhow. I may not like the Cowboys as far as the America's team, but the owner's a billionaire owner for a reason. He built his own palace down in Texas. Although I went to the old Texas Stadium and saw the greatest game I ever saw with the Lions and the Cowboys, and the Lions won in overtime. And I was on the field close to 27 minutes because you had like 15 minutes in overtime, and the last 10 the Cowboys are classy. And it's pretty neat to be on national TV with the Dallas Cowboys Cheetos, and the Lions did win it. So one of the greatest memories I've ever had. So, all right, we'll talk about the current Lions. Give me your assessment of the Brian Branch situation. and the Kansas City game. I know it was definitely a wake up call. They ended up going out there. It only cost them like 76 grand to go out there and harass this Juju Smith-Schuster. But I think he could have. That was a slap on the wrist because he didn't have a previous reputation there. But how do you assess that whole situation with Branch? I have a feeling he learned his lesson with that little bit of a hiccup, don't you?
Learned his lesson. Should have known better. He's a veteran. Plays at an all-pro level. A guy that you depend on each and every week. A guy that can help you win. A guy you need to win. A guy that other players, younger players, are going to look up to and model themselves after. He is all of that and more inside that room and for that team. Dan Campbell expects more, and Dan Campbell said so. Dan Campbell said it's unacceptable. That's not what we do around here. That's not how we're going to conduct ourselves. He doesn't have to deliver that message. I think that he epitomizes that and always has since he took over here, and has set a bar and has set a standard that everyone knows that's not only unacceptable, it's not the culture that they're trying to develop. And you certainly can't have that from your leaders and the guys on your team that you're expected to help you win, help you get to that Super Bowl, to model after. If you're a younger player, to model yourself after a guy like a Brian Branch. Unnecessary. The game was over. You win some, you lose some. I play a whole lot of hockey, Scott. You know that. I grew up playing Czech hockey. Everything stopped when the whistle stopped. Everything stopped when the game was over. So the game is over, win or lose. You take a number, whatever you do, you salute your opponent, you move on. You don't start punching guys in the head at the NFL level on a national game when your backfield's already decimated. You know you could get suspended for this. You're putting your team in a bad situation. You're coming home from Monday Night Football game against the team that is now leading your conference. This is a team you want to keep pace with, a team you want to overtake. You need this guy on the field. They are so decimated by injuries in their backfield. Terrion Arnold being out, DJ Reed being out right now. Kirby Joseph is gimpy. I mean, one guy after another, all pro level players. And Terrion Arnold, you know, the first round draft pick of a year ago in his second year, he's still looking for some help. He needs a little shelter as far as help on that defensive side of the ball. Can't do it all himself, but he's not even going to be available. So when you are hurting your team that's already shorthanded, when you are somebody who knows better, when you are somebody that other guys are looking up to, and you're supposed to be a mentor to and an example for other people, you can't do this. You can't act this way on national TV. You can't put your team in this situation. Your coach shouldn't need to call you out. No one in the locker room should come and have a chat with you, have to tell you, hey, bro, we need better from you. You know, and athletes always know that their own harshest critics, and I know he would want that one back, but the fact of the matter is he did get suspended for a game. The fact of the matter is they are decimated in their backfield. And the fact of the matter is they are going to miss him on Monday night when Baker Mayfield, one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league, comes to town and tries to do what Patrick Mahomes did last week, and that is take advantage of your battered secondary and light you up. So they're going to miss him. It's going to be a tough week. They are at home. That's going to help. The fact that Tampa Bay's offense is shorthanded coming in is certainly going to maybe balance the scales a bit. It's going to be a really, really good football game to watch. But Brian Branch, everyone will tell him shame on you. He's going to know better. He's obviously going to do better in the future, but this isn't a lesson he had to learn. This is something he already knew.
Yeah, no question about that. When you think about it, the Kansas City game was definitely a wake-up call. I know that Lee McNeil is coming back soon, but nevertheless, you're going to need a whole lot more than that. Because when I talked about it last night on the Sports Exchange, I said this: you all of a sudden put tape on that Sunday night game, Trevor, and now everybody's going to look at it and say, "Oh, maybe this is the way to beat the Lions." That's the last thing you want to do on a nationally televised game. It's one thing to get away with it when there aren't as many eyes, but you don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that.
That game film, man, national game film.
Yeah, but there's one thing about it as well, Scott. The Kansas City Chiefs, led by Andy Reid, who I believe has 3 Super Bowls to his name, is the franchise leader in wins for 2 different franchises, knows a little bit about coaching.
Right.
Not every team has Andy Reid coaching. Not every team has Patrick Mahomes under center and the weapons he has around him to help you succeed, to get to Super Bowls, and obviously to be an odds-on favorite, one of the odds-on favorites to get back to the Super Bowl and maybe win it again. So you can watch all the game film you want about how the Kansas City Chiefs went about aggravating and defeating the Detroit Lions, but if you don't have the personnel and the coaching to get it done, all the film that you want to watch is not going to help you get it done. However, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are one such team that can get that done. They are leading the NFC right now. They are 5-1 right now. So they've done something along the way that's proven them to be successful. They've got a great head coach as well, and they're going to come in here ready to play as one of the hottest teams in the NFL. So maybe there are ways they can take advantage, but they will be coming in shorthanded. So whatever film they were able to watch, the fact that they don't have Mike Evans on the field or
Right.
Chris Godwin on the field or Emeka Ibuka on the field to help them get this done, or Bucky Irving to help get this done, they are going to be shorthanded. It will be an uphill battle because Detroit's defense will come all night long, even without Brian Branch. But yeah, you will pick up some things on film that you can maybe try to exploit. Having the resources to do that is a whole other story.
So, Katie, why don't you put all of Jeremy's chats up? The guy obviously is I don't want Trevor to see this. This is the guy I've trained, by the way. Okay, so nowadays in this day and age for me, it's not only what I've done in the field, but the people I'm actually bringing along. So Barry's a GOAT of running backs with James Brown, Jim Brown. Okay, he says James. Okay, either way, it's the same thing. Brian Branch over to Jordy Nelson. Decline whose appeal could have been on there. Let's keep it going here. I trained this guy. That's why I'm putting them all up there. Glad Homestein, Kendall Fuller. All right. This guy, he knows what he's doing. He's got his own podcast. It's what he talks about several days a week, anyways, Monday to Friday. And we'll talk about a little bit of history with the Lions. We got a lot of other things.
Well, I feel like I'm reading the ticker here. This is
awesome.
Well,
his ticker. I'm telling you.
In fact, I'm reading the ticker.
Yeah, that's what it is. This guy's a machine here. His writing's gotten a lot better, too. I love training people, Trevor. You'll talk about us being in the field, but sometimes you like to get back to the industry by being able to train people. Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for people like you and George and all these other guys, or Tony DeMarco, one of my mentors, and the list goes on and on. I don't want to sit here and start individual names. You and George are two of my closest people. Tony DeMarco trained me, and the list goes on and on. Another guy was Phil Pepe back in New York. Everybody that you feel has always contributed to life, you want to acknowledge, and this guy is certainly someone that I don't mind putting his chance up there. All right, now that we'll take our mind off the existing lines and then go back to a little bit. But here, let me ask you, I actually had Eric Hipple on the show a few weeks ago where we talked about depression and a lot of things like that. But do you think he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in Lions history behind Matthew Stafford, Bobby Lane, Greg Landry, and Scott Mitchell? And I have a feeling that actually, to be honest with you, Jared Goff is going to replace Scott Mitchell. Lane Font poke fun of him all day long. So, but what about Eric Hipple? Let's talk about Eric, the person himself. Do you think he's one of the top 5?
I would put him in the top 5 right now. And the guy had personality, had some swagger. You need that in a quarterback. He had leadership ability, had the big arm. I really like Eric Hipple. I like the fact that he was a personality. There aren't those kinds of personalities in the sport anymore. I think sports as a whole is missing some of that from back in the old days, some throwback players with personality and some people that would, sort of rub you the wrong way on the field and get the most out of you as an opponent as well, and he was certainly that type of guy on the field. So I really liked Eric Hipple. I like his body of work. I respect his body of work at that time with the Lions, and I would put him in the top 5, absolutely.
Well, let me tell you, I had fun with him on this one. I said, Eric, don't you feel you made a career on that opening night when you demolished the Chicago Bears? And I know the rest of your career was solid, but let's get real. You only had 6 touchdowns and 9 zillion yards on that. You talk about first impression. I think the Lions were salivating, and we may have our first franchise quarterback that beat the daylights out of the Bears. Let's face it, he did go out there and make a career one night. I don't know if you ever saw that game on Monday night, but it's unbelievable.
I don't recall that particular game, but I do know his overall body of work, like I said, and I would put him in the top 5. Now, my number 1 would have to be Matthew Stafford. And I think one of the underappreciated things about Matthew Stafford while he was here in Detroit is just how tough that guy was. Pound for pound, that might be one of the toughest quarterbacks in the game today, certainly. And I don't know how far back you want to go. I know there were different eras and guys played through different things, but that was one tough SOB, big arm, big moment guy. Didn't take plays off, didn't take games off. Regardless of what the situation was here in Detroit, he gave everything he had every single time out there on the field. And I just respected the toughness that he played with, and not only the talent that he played with, but the leadership abilities that he showed. So I really think that the body of work that he had, the players that surrounded him, and what he helped do to the culture here lifts him. He would be my number 1 for now. And if Jared Goff could win a Super Bowl right now, and they were chanting his name all over the state last year at every event you went to, so certainly popular, he may have a chance to be the number 1 quarterback in Lions history. But right now, with what he was able to do, from what I saw with my own 2 eyes, Matthew Stafford was hard to beat.
Oh, no, I agree with you. There's no way you can go against him with number one. I mean, he had what 40,000 yards. And yeah, Jared Goff. Like, go ahead, Jeremy, the ticker, our unofficial ticker. But yeah, we all know that Jared Goff will definitely be number one if he's able to get a Super Bowl in his pocket. We know playing quarterback obviously is a tough position in Detroit. We also know that Jared Goff doesn't get a lot of praise for his toughness. A lot of people that know football, they do praise him, Jeremy. But Matthew Stafford has the caveat with the yards right now, and that's why so far he gets the edge. And now he does have a Super Bowl championship with a Rams team for sure. So, with all due respect, now I'm going Stafford all day long. Number one, I was pulling for him to win the Super Bowl in the Rams, and I'm glad he did. But the amazing part about it is Brad Holmes is such a genius that he traded one quarterback for the other and also got draft capital to go with it. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
turned out to be one of those situations, Trevor, where he had a trade that was a win-win for both teams is really what it
yeah.
was. And I'm glad it worked out. So let's speaking of Jared Goff, let's not talk about only what his quarterback play. What about the Jared Goff, the person, is he donated 15.9 million bonus in sponsorship earnings to homeless shelter in Detroit to help fund 150 units of housing with 300 shelter beds. What's he like to work with? And have you ever gotten to know his wife, Kristen Harper, Goff, the Sports Illustrated model, who recently had a child? Because it seems like they're really good people.
Yeah, I watched him on that quarterback documentary that was on Netflix as well. And behind the scenes, he and his wife looked just like the couple next door, people you would love to have over for dinner, people you'd love to have over and barbecue on the weekend and sit on the deck and have a cold one and just fellowship with. He seems like a really down-to-earth sort of guy. She seems like the same type of person. And they just seem like really grounded, family-oriented type of people off the field. On the field and around the team, he's a quiet leader. But I think that the numbers he puts up speaks for the talent that he has for himself. But I think a group like this, if he wasn't a Dan Campbell guy at heart, I mean by his makeup, his grit, his composure, his character, his toughness, his willingness to do whatever it takes to win, he wouldn't be the quarterback here in Detroit. Plain and simple. I think that everybody in that team, everybody associated with that team is handpicked. Everybody that's surrounding that and part of that culture, especially in that leadership group, is handpicked. And I really think that if you're not their type of guy, if they don't see this in you, regardless of what your exterior demeanor may present, if they don't see it in you underneath, you're not going to be here. You're not the type of player that they want. They didn't bring back Devontae Smith, Desarius Smith for a reason. There was something there, even though they needed an edge rusher, there was something about him that didn't fit the culture and didn't fit in. So they didn't bring him back. And I don't think that at the quarterback position, especially in that leadership role, if Jared Goff didn't have that makeup, I didn't think he'd be here. So he looks like a quiet guy, unassuming guy, away from shucks guy, away from the field. But I think that guy's makeup, that guy's heart, that guy's character is that of a champion, and he'll eventually get there here in Detroit, and it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. So let's go to the Darius Smith. Obviously, they put Edge Marcus Davenport on the IRA. And you already stated that Zadarius Smith was not a Dan Campbell. They could have had him because he was available all summer.
He waited around to come here. And I didn't think that he wasn't. I always thought that after the draft they would get this done. They were waiting to maybe get some other contract signed and wait some money thing, or maybe he didn't want to go to training camp, kept kicking that can down the road. And it just never happened. And then Dan Campbell uttered that famous line, "We're good," and he moved on. And then maybe they did know something because he retired just 2 days ago on Instagram from the Philadelphia Eagles after joining them when the season was already started. So maybe there were some things underlying already about Zadarius Smith that we don't know, that they don't know. And whenever there's something that goes on, Scott, in sports, I've learned to ask myself one question. If it doesn't make sense or you're wondering why something happened, I always say to myself, what don't I know? There's always something. They know more than we do with the way they break the game down, with their analytics, whatever it might be, with their security, with everything they know behind the scenes, medical reports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They know more than we know, and we don't always know why they make their decisions. But I ask, what is there that I don't know? And those are always questions that we really have to ask ourselves when things don't make sense, because they do know more than us, and they do these things for a reason. They do it for a living. They're all about winning. And if a guy can help you win, you're going to bring him in. And otherwise, you want no parts. And they decided they didn't want any parts, and now he's out of football. So they know something we didn't.
Yeah, no, you hit a bullseye with that one, Trev. Really, seriously, really, those are my favorite words. Although I could be a bit more even kill with you about the whole thing, but you're right. The guy was sitting around all summer. You kind of had him whenever you wanted. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, was it the money or not? Because he got his 9 million in Philly, and he bolted anyway. So Dan Campbell, it's called that word called instincts. Dan Campbell guy, you already nailed it, Trevor. Really, seriously, really, I have to get this
And
energy
Brad
in here
Holmes too.
tonight.
This guy's got an eye for talent. Just look at the drafts. Look at the draft picks. Look at the deals that he's made. Look who
Right,
he's brought in. This guy has an eye for talent. This guy, they know who they want. They know what
right.
they want. They know the makeup of the guys, and they know what they're building. And I think that everything is done with a purpose. Everybody's brought with a purpose. I don't think there are any accidents with these guys, and I think they really are great talent evaluators, character evaluators, and I think they really look underneath. Does this guy have what we're looking for as far as his heart and what he's willing to do to win before we bring him here? And they saw something about Zadarius Smith, and maybe they were just unsure about his passion for the game, and it was that simple because he did retire right now. So maybe there was something in there that he showed them that he wasn't really fully committed to the game, and maybe that was it in the end. But I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. I just know the way that it worked out in the end and how these guys are built and what this team is doing, and they're going forward.
Well, let me tell you, I've covered the NFL a long time, but everything that you went out there and said is definitely online. He was not a Dan Campbell guy. But let's go back to Marcus Davenport. The guy hasn't been injured, very healthy with the Lions. What's your take on it? Do you think this guy's going to make it through the year? What are they going to have to do? I know they got a Lee McNeil, but Marcus Davenport, you get what you pay for, and they haven't gotten a whole lot out of this guy.
Yeah, I just think
what's your take on Marcus?
Until he proves otherwise, he's a guy who's injury prone and a guy you can't rely on every week to be there to help you win. And the coaches will always tell you, I can only work with the guys who are here, the guys who are ready to hear. I don't want to talk about the guys who are injured. I don't want to talk about the guys who are unsigned. I don't want to talk about the guys who are holding out. Don't ask me that. I'm working with the guys who are here, and the guys who will give me the best chance to win this game tonight, this week, whatever the case might be. So I really think in the case of Marcus Davenport, he hasn't proven that he's a guy that you can rely on every week. He's not been able to stay healthy. NFL is a tough game. I'm not saying he's brittle. I'm not saying he's anything. NFL is a tough game. It's a wonder anybody's healthy after training camp or a few weeks of the regular season. As you see, you look around, I ran down like 5 guys for Tampa Bay coming here this week that aren't going to be on the field. I went through the whole secondary for the Lions who aren't going to be on the field. Injuries are unpreventable in the sport of football, especially and in sports in general. So it's not surprising that someone gets injured, but if you're continually injured and you can't give us anything week to week, as they always say, your greatest ability is availability. And if you're not available, we can't use you. And he's proven to be someone you can't rely on. That's just the way it is.
Well, let me tell you this, okay? You're never going to get this one anyway, so I'm just going to put you on the spot. You know the first team that I ever covered growing up?
I do not.
The Miami Dolphins in '82. And you know who I got to work with? Don Shula. Okay. If you think training camps were bad, now they got 3 a days. I'm going to tell you a funny Shula story. You ready for this one? I haven't had a chance to tell you because every time we were together, we're always at a hockey arena, anywhere but football. This is a privilege to talk about football. Really, seriously, really, I had to get up. I'm sorry. I'm all this energy person. I'm a caged lion. Now we're talking about the Detroit Lions, not the British Columbia Lions. Well, no, you probably want to cover them too.
I covered them on the day too. I sure did.
Yeah, there you go. So I got it there.
Shout out to Corey Philpott. What's up, brother?
Yeah, there you go. I'm telling you. But anyways, Don Shula. Here's a guy like me, anything but athletic. Okay, once upon a time, I won a trophy for most unusual form in bowling. This just shows you what a great person I am when it comes to bowling. I would go up there, take that ball, whip it right across the alley, and carelessly get my 90 to 120, 130 games. I'm definitely not going to be. I could have probably done all right bowling for dollars, but not bowling for anything. Although I do good bowling games on my tablet, but that's beside the point. But anyway, let's get back to Don Shula. I'm actually going to a Fort Lauderdale Strikers media game against their staff, and I got taken down and I sprained my ankle that day, and I had to go to Dolphins training camp on a Sunday. I think, oh my God, it's a rainy day. Of course, South Florida is always filled with them during the summer. So there weren't many of us there, but a couple of us were there. And, at the end of practice, Coach Shula and he invites myself and a writer over to his office, and we started talking. I'm looking at all this stuff there, and it's like, holy, tell you, this is unbelievable. This guy, I'm young enough to understand it. So he looks at me. He liked me. At the beginning, he used to give me a hard time because when it comes to a young writer, he drill you. Yeah, you have to earn your way to the Dolphins, let alone the greatest coach of all time. And I'm glad that Bill Belichick is floundering and didn't have a chance to break Coach Shula's record because I hope Don Shula goes ahead and keeps that record. Okay. But here's the thing, says to me, that Don Shula, he's the most intimidating person I've ever been around. I mean, really, he is. So it says to me, Scott, because by then he got to know me. He got to actually call me by my first name. And to get called by your first name by Shula is privilege. So let me ask you a question. Should I put you on injured reserve or should I cut you? Because he sees I have an ace bandage on, I'm on crutches, and I'm still out there doing my job, just a young 19, 20-year-old. So I'm telling you, what do you think I told him?
What did you tell him?
I'd rather you put me on injured reserve so I remain on the team. And Don Shula laughed at me and he said, no problem. He just laughed at me. It was just cool. Here I am with a sprained ankle, a 19-year-old who probably it looks like a toothpick. Of course, you can tell I've eaten a little bit since my days back in covering Dolphins. And yeah, it was fun. Don Shula and I got to know each other well. But the one thing he always taught me, every time I've covered sports in my lifetime, is I've been lucky enough to be around great coaches. But there were times when I'd pick his brain and get advice from him. And one thing he always taught me was, whatever you do, I said, so I asked him a question outright back then. What is one of the reasons? By this time, I'm catching on to this media thing, okay? And I said, what do you do in order to maintain success? He told me something, and I put it in my book, by the way, which you're going to get it before it's all said and done. He said, what I do is I make sure I feed into my team's strengths, not what they can't do. Mm-hmm. That's what he told me. So now whether I build this media thing that I'm doing here with the Trib or whatever, or whoever I've been around, I always do that now because I learned from Don Shula. I've interviewed John Wooden. I've interviewed a lot of big people that I've listed in my book. And Coach Wooden, I live by his pyramids of success. But anytime you're around people, you don't always have to cover them just for the sake of getting the quote. But there's nothing wrong with going out there picking their brain about why they were successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I've learned to do. And with Shula, it was unbelievable. That's why I knew you were going to get that question anyways. These are things we don't get to talk about when we're by ourselves because, you got to go out there and get on. Now we're together, man. We have to do this stuff. This is the stuff you never expect to listen to. You get it tonight. But no, that's the thing about Shula. And the one thing about Campbell, I would love to play for a guy like him. And by the way, he was an interim coach of the Miami Dolphins 5-7. He wasn't good enough to coach the Miami.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Guess what? The Dolphins stink. And don't make it here. Dan Kimball, we don't need the Dolphins. This is what the Detroit Lions, where the Dolphins at. You have them on top of your roof called gutters. That's where the Dolphins are at, in the gutters. How am I doing with the one line? We're blowing it away, or is this time going by, or what? Don't worry, Trev. I got a few more times to get to. We're going to get to them there. Well,
Scott, you touched on something I want to talk about, Scott, just for a quick second. You touched on something I want to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead, Trev.
The coaches that you've been around, the coaches that you've come across throughout your time, and you mentioned a few, and I want to mention a couple too, because you don't really the impact that they have and how they influence people and the aura that surrounds some of these guys. And Scotty Bowman, for example, when he coached the Red Wings when I was here, Larry Brown when he coached the Pistons when I was here, Jim Leland and Ron Gardenhire when they managed the Tigers while I was here. Being around guys like that, you can't put your finger on it, but you can tell how they separate themselves. And there's something about it that not only their players, but people who are around them, they motivate you, they uplift you, they inspire you, you that term, you'll run through a wall for them. You can see why guys will at times. And you talk about Shula being the most intimidating guy that you were around. Scotty Bowman was an intimidating guy, but he got the most out of people. And then how these guys get the most out of people and what it is about them that allows them to do that consistently wherever they go. Larry Brown coached 500 teams and did the same thing with every team that he had. Every player will tell you he's the best coach I ever had. But the commonality and what they bring to every program, what they get out of people, I've always found fascinating, and what separates them from other people and the time that they put into this and the time they spend away from their families and what they do and how they win. I've always thought is just a fascinating angle that a lot of people really don't think about, or we don't talk about, or people don't see. They're watching the game, but these coaches that get it done, and I know you've met a few too, they're very impactful and just unique individuals. And I just wondered if you had anybody else in mind that you felt that way about.
Yeah, you know what? Great question. Great minds think alike, Trev. You and I always thought this way. So yeah, I'll bring up Larry Bird and Chuck Daly. Okay, Larry Bird. Sometimes I like to go to the visitors, and I do that a lot with the Canes these days because there's not a lot of time with Cristobal because he's on demand. So I say, heck with it. I'll just go to the other side and I'll get my questions in that way. I'm a piranha. I'm going to get my questions in one or the other. If I can't get it from one, I'm going the other. I have candy to the videography. But Larry Bird, after he was done with his daily people, asked him, Coach Bird, let me ask you a question. I was really polite. I realized you weren't one of the better athletes out there. Okay. And sometimes you have to understand the words that you use so that people are not offended by it. But what made you better than a lot of players you're out there? And he really liked the way I asked the question, Trev. It's all about how you word a question so nobody's offended. Mm-hmm. And he said, Scott, again, he used my first name because I introduced myself in a good way. And he says, I think 3 steps ahead of the other guy. That's what he told me, right to my face. What do you think I do, Trev? I think 3 steps to the other guy. Another one I love is Chuck Daly, okay? And the reason why is he used to go out there and manipulate his players with minutes. You don't practice, I'm taking away your minutes, man. Right. I'll tell you what I do with my people here. You don't do what I tell you to do, I'll take away your damn airtime. And don't worry, they buy into it because, hey, you got to listen to these videos to see if you're any good. I want you to watch them for a reason. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's you want people that buy into the system, but be polite about it. And it's what we call, Trev, the velvet hammer. It works, man. I
like that. I like that.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot more Scottisms in there. I can't. We got to get this guy. I want to see him and get it to him. And just give me an incentive to live and get up to Metro Detroit. I'll tell you, when I went on that trip overseas a while back, I did 35 or 40 videos out there, and I got sick and tired of hearing the Motor City Man about 35 or 40 times. I loved every place I was saying it and got people in behind me. I hit on a couple old ladies out there from Seattle. If there was a person in there, I was going to stick a microphone. A microphone is like a lollipop to me, Trevor. You can never have enough of it. It's great, man. I'll tell you, a lollipop to me is like one of those charmed blow pops or whatever is that. Give it to me, man. I love this stuff. But yeah, I have a lot of coaches in there. Wayne Font's a little kind of guy. It was easy going, but he loved to hug. And I'll tell you one thing. I like Jim Schwartz too, though, because I like the relationship he had with Matthew Stafford. Jim Schwartz inherited a tough job there with that mess that he had to deal with. So I like Jim Schwartz, dictator, but Wayne was easy going. Hey, I went to school at USF with his son Mike, and we used to hang out. I'll tell you another interesting story. I tell you all these stories, but don't worry, I got other stuff we're going to get to. That's why we're having some fun here, and I'm glad that are going to beat me up too bad on time because how often do we get to do this? Once in a lifetime, so don't worry. But anyways, I'll never forget the time when I'm down and the Lions lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Sombrero. Okay, this is tough, man. The Lions, and I'm wearing the Lions colors, and I have a deadline over at the Tampa Tribune. And guess what, though? Across the Tampa Stadium, there was a Hooters. Oh, my God. I'm telling you, I was a young guy back then. And I'll tell you, I had a bunch of beers. I shouldn't be talking about this on a family show, but I did. And I'll tell you one thing. It was depressing when the Lions lost to the Bucs. The Bucs were not good back then. So, anyways, I go back to the Tampa Tribune, wrote one of the best stories I've ever wrote because I used to sit by my editors all the time to try to get information. Scott, this is one of the best stories you've ever written. I said, Rick, just do me a favor. Don't go ahead and tell the bosses I had a few beers after the Lions lost. He said, Scott, he says, you know what? If you're going to drink beers and you write this good, I don't even care. I mean, that's like a whole story you wrote. In fact, he's the same guy that when I got in a jackpot over at Kissimmee, Florida, when they had no phone lines, I had to dictate a 30 or 40-inch story after trying to get the stupid thing with my little suction cup over there. It didn't even work, and he still took it. You develop a reputation with your editor because if you're a blue-collar person, you work hard, Trev, then they're going to do what you got to do to go your way. But when I wrote that story with all that beer in me, and I never did, Rick said, that was a good story. Drink more beer. I don't say nothing. I had to get on my Trevor. I never had a chance to do that. Lots of talking stuff off, for God's sake. All right, well, you know what? I'm so hyper, but I'm going to get to one John Gruden topic. Candy's going to go to a station break. Trev, hope you're having a good time here. As I can
I'm loving this. I'm loving this.
And Jeremy Baldwin's our unofficial co-host here. You wait around, Jeremy. Hold on the fort because Trevor and I we got a little ways to go here. as we get ready to Trevor and Scott, amazing show. I'm glad you're in the chat room. You picked the damn right day to be in it, Ballrick. You're getting exposure like you never have. Am I louder than Stephen A. Smith? He's nothing. I can out-talk Stephen A. Smith all day long. He's not in my league. Am I cocky? I don't care.
I'd rather listen to you. I'll tell you that. That's between me and you, though.
I've been on the bench in 47 years. For God's sake, I think I've experienced a thing or two, and I've been up with you, so it's been a bigger riot than anything. Great stuff, I'm telling you. All right, let's talk about John Gruden. I'm really going nuts. And I'm only getting warmed up, and I got my brother from another mother on there. Do I look like I got Alzheimer's? He probably thinks, oh, no, you don't have it or anything. But don't worry, when I get up there, I'll drop down a little bit here. So, but anyways, John Gruden was in town during training camp wearing a Lions hat and a golf shirt. And I said, hopefully I'm not done. I'm about to make a comeback. I'm working hard to get one more shot. I don't care if I coach at Jones Junior High. I'm going to coach again. Were you surprised that Dan Campbell didn't bring him on in any role because he's a great offensive mind? But for some crazy reason, I have a feeling he'll be a candidate for the Florida Gators job, as well as a lot of the other college openings as well, due to his extensiveness for, to me, the guy to me is a great offensive line. He really is. And with Florida, that is a tough job. It really is. And let's not forget that he won a Super Bowl in Tampa, albeit he did with Tony Dungy's players, but he still won it. Well, let's talk about John Gruden, the person himself. Now, I know he recently won a lawsuit, which will probably help him get in there, but let's talk about the guy. It's pretty cool, though, that he went out there and wore a Lion shirt. I never thought I'd see the day he'd do that. But what about John Gruden? What do you think about this guy? You think he's going to be coaching again?
He'll absolutely coach somewhere again, but I'm not surprised that he wouldn't be a part of what's going on here in Detroit. John Gruden is just too big, and I don't mean that in the sense that he's bigger than Detroit or bigger than the Lions, but John Gruden's always about himself and the name itself. All the attention gravitates to him. These guys, Dan Campbell has turned himself into a head coach everybody talks about, but let's not forget Dan Campbell's first season here. They had to grind it out. Those first couple seasons were very tough. He's made a name for himself. He's developed a culture here. He was a Lion. He's a self-made man. John Gruden, the TV aspect of it, yeah, he's a good coach and everything, but I just think there's so much about John Gruden that's about John Gruden that it detracts from what the team is trying to do and what the whole program is all about. And here in Detroit, with what these guys have built, it's all about what the team is about. It's not about one person. It's not about Brad Holmes. It's not about Dan Campbell. They've made names for themselves, but I think John Gruden is just one of those characters that it would all be about him and what he's doing and how things are going for him or what his thoughts are, as opposed to what's going on with the team. So no surprise that he's not a part of what the Lions are doing, but yeah, he's absolutely going to run a program of his own, and he's going to have that velvet hammer you talk about. He's going to be the authority there, and I think that's the situation he's waiting for, and someone's going to pay handsomely to have him do it for their program, whether it's in college or the pros, wherever it might be. He's absolutely, if he wants to, he can and he will. There's gas left in the tank, and he's healthy enough. I don't see why he wouldn't, because he'll have those kind of opportunities, but I'm not surprised it was never a part of the Lions culture.
For some crazy reason, and I don't know this, maybe I'm really losing it now, that by the end of the time this show is over, you're going to write the words Velvet Hammer down, and you're going to go out there.
I love it. I'm going to use it going forward.
Oh, hey, that's okay. You can have it. Huh?
That's going to be your little piece in me.
Hey, listen, I'm glad. I actually learned it from a guy that did home improvement out in Arizona, used a Velvet Hammer to close deals. I used to be nice, firm, but knew how to maintain my composure. And when I saw the word Velvet Hammer there in the book, and now if I leave that in your head because you came on here and you took care, you saw long-winded Morgenroth, motor mouth, and all that, Velvet Hammer, I hope I leave a lot more on you. But if I leave you with the Velvet Hammer, I feel I did something good, man. It is what it is. I love it.
I'll handle it with care.
Huh? I know you will. Now, tell your wife, I learned something from the Motor City Man. Velvet Hammer, baby. Dana, is that what her name is? Dana.
Dana, yeah.
I went out there and love you, Dana, because you're taking care of my brother. And now he's got a Velvet Hammer. He's going to be dangerous on any team that he gets involved in, for sure. But you know what? I may not have Dana, but I got Candy. And you know what? Time for her to bring her on here for a station break. I have more to talk about here. Getting going with the Mr. T Squared, Trevor Thompson, here on the Motor City Man Mouth Show. Candy, I'll give my voice a 2-second break, and I'm going to pick up where I left off. Great job, Kneecap Fighting with the Motor City Lions. You picked a hell of a show to come on, that's for sure.
South Florida Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved, old school media versus new school media. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content, so go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can hear us wherever you get your podcasts. If you see the red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you haven't subscribed to us yet. What are you waiting for? Just do it. Click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family, and then make sure you turn on their notifications so you're notified every time we go live. If you want to advertise or sponsor any one of our shows, call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to the great program, Scott.
Thank you, Candy. See, I'll tell
That's
you.
awesome. She's a killer, man. She's a killer.
She is a killer. She's the
love
one keeping. I tell you, this girl's got her own show. If you ever get bored, you want to watch our shows, I think you already subscribed to our channel. You got her on just about every night now. I'm telling you. I don't know if I'm teaching her the good habits or bad habits, but she's hanging around and dealing with it anyway. Some of the stuff that she's over there, shoots over at the show, they all love her. You know, me, I'm one of those kinds of people. I'm George Steinberg. I'm controversial with this day and age when it comes to the PR people. Let me tell you. I just am. You get on my way and you don't allow me to answer a question. I'm a real bad man. I am. I'm telling you, I'm more controversial than George Steinbrenner. And if everybody knows about George Steinbrenner, I do, because he's in my book. He gave me a hard time, but I knew exactly what I had to do to get the easy questions out till he hammered me on the manager ones. And then, of course, Ted Koppel got it too, so I don't feel so bad.
Oh, yeah.
That's another story. We'll do in person. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, listen, you talk about a lot of the influences that you've had. And like I say, when I talk about Larry Bird, I'm talking about, and I've actually met Stephen A. Smith a few times. And, he's been nice to me, but if I ever get him in front of me, you ain't messing with 47 years and I know every sport. The only, the most intelligent thing he says about a hockey, don't you? The only thing I know about hockey is the puck is black. Really? Seriously, really? That's all you know? Basketball. But you know anything about hockey? Are you nuts?
But I got to say one thing, and I'm not a fan. He's not my cup of tea. It's all well and good. I've met him a few times along the way. It's nothing personal. It's just I'm not into that kind of thing. But the fact is, dude has made himself a name in this industry. He is an industry unto himself. He's got $100 million deal. He's been doing it for a long time, so he's doing something right. God bless him. What can you say? I
like Bob Lee, but he's been nice for me. I'm not knocking him. Believe it or not, he'll probably be. I did get a picture of him in New Orleans, and I'll put it in there because hey, I can put him in there. Maybe I'll sell a few extra copies of books. How do I know?
Who is your favorite broadcaster? Who do you think? Who do you respect the most? Who's your favorite working today or period?
Well, I'll give you a couple if it's okay with you. Ernie Harwell. I love Ernie Harwell. But Ernie Harwell got to be because he's like a mentor to me. How do I go against that? But Vin Scully, I'm going to put him right up there too. The way he just does nothing but tell stories all day long. And I idolize Brent Musburger. And I'll tell you a funny story that happened to me in New Orleans. Oh, I'm full of stories, man. I'm glad I get to do this stuff with you tonight. I'm back in 1982 at the Final Four, buying a ticket from a friend of mine. We took a Greyhound tour. A Greyhound all the way up to New Orleans, and we ended up getting a Grey Line tour. Well, here's the problem I have with that situation, okay? I lost my tour because Brent Musburger was over at Lincoln Square, and as it turns out, okay, I spent $20 on this stupid tour, and I lost it. It only took me one stop to lose it. I'm wearing a Michigan Tech jacket, which was the second warmest jacket I took up there with me, and I bump into these people from northern Michigan. They took me over to Bourbon Street. Okay, I got plastered there with paddle runnings out of New Orleans, and they gave me $20 to take a cab. That was nice of them. They're really nice, and hey, they love to see me get sloshed over in New Orleans with the hurricanes. Oh my lordy, I've had one big hangover. You ever have a New Orleans hurricane? He gave me $20. I
Oh, I
couldn't find.
have. I've been to Pat O'Brien's, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I've
Well,
been
have
there.
you
Yeah, I've
really?
had a hurricane
Well,
in
then
New
you know
Orleans.
where
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
coming from. So
Oh,
what
yeah.
happened? I couldn't find the cab, so I put the money in my pocket and it ended up paying for my tour that I paid for. And then I go out there I was staying at the YMCA up there, and then my friend said, "Where you been?" A whole lot of different places than you've been. I'm going to bed. So, but no, you're going to Popeye fried chicken first because that's the Cajun stuff I didn't know much about. You know the best way to get rid of a hangover? Have Cajun food from Popeye fried chicken in New Orleans, and that Pat O'Brien hurricane rubs off on you quick, and all of a sudden you got to put a fire out in your mouth, man. I'm telling you, but Pat O'Brien's unbelievable. I took candy there, but now with all me being so sick these days, I wasn't able to drink. So I wonder if I remember half the thing. Yeah, I got a few more things I want to get to. We'll continue to go. But the stories are flying. Trevor Thompson and I are having fun. Time is flying, and we're going to keep this rolling. All right, so Mike Rupp on Pavel Datsyuk says, I don't know. I don't think he gets enough love for how great he was. Datsuk's magical skills continue to live in hockey lore. What are your thoughts about Mike Rupp's comments?
Pavel Datsyuk is one of my all-time favorite players, and I think that unless you had the opportunity to watch him up close, and by up close I mean at the game with a seat, to watch the whole ice and not just what the TV cameras show you, you don't appreciate how good this guy was. He is, and I started covering sports live, watching live NHL games for a living in 1992. So everyone from that time till now, I've seen with my own two eyes up close. He's in the top 3 players I've ever seen. Gretzky, Lemieux, Datsyuk, for the things he did on the ice. Those guys and Datsyuk, the reason I say that is because those guys, and him included, did things that no one else could do. I've never seen anyone else do, and I really don't think certain players do certain things, but that could do all of these things at once and play at that level. Never saw it before. This guy was fun to watch. He was magical to watch. He was his personality. He had tons and tons of personality. He's one of the funnier guys you'd ever come along. He pretended he didn't know English, but he knew it way better than he let on. The driest sense of humor, just stronger than you think. Everything about that guy was more than you think. And he was a better hockey player than people really give him credit for, because I don't think they really watched or appreciated his game up close the way I had the opportunity to. He was just simply one of the best hockey players that I've ever seen.
Yeah, he certainly is. Do you believe in the Eisner plan? And at some point or another, when does the Red Wings get rid of this 9-year drought? I was glad they beat the Florida Panthers 4-1. I don't care how many Panthers are down. It doesn't matter. The Red Wings are overdue to get in the playoffs. And I know that at some point or another, Steve Eisman believes in what he's doing. But I know the fans have so much patience, and they're paying good money over that new building. But do you think they're finally going to break through? And do you believe in what Steve Eisman is doing?
I do believe in what he's doing. And right now, if you look at the top of the standings in their division right now, it's the Detroit Red Wings on top. They're off to the start they needed to get off to. They've built some confidence. Todd McClellan's had this team from training camp on instead of joining them mid-year this year. Everything about what they're going to do is how he wants it. The details are going to be how he wants it. The messaging coming through to the players and the fans is going to be how he wants it to be from the start of the season. And I think right now, getting John Gibson is going to help stabilize that goaltending. He's a veteran presence. He'll be here another year with that contract. So they've got some stability in net with him. And with Sebastian Cossa and Trey Augustine coming, they've got a future with the kids that they've drafted. You can see that Steve Yzerman, like Brad Campbell, has that eye for talent. And the people that he selects to be here, especially through the draft, are going to be people that have what he wants in them. And I think you see that playing out in some of the kids that are in the lineup right now. And you look at just look at Axel Sandin Pellikka playing defense right now as a young man and playing on their power play 5 games into the season. That doesn't happen in Red Wings history. Like the way they develop players, that's never been a part of how they develop players. You go down and you grow and you learn the game, especially if you're coming from Sweden. You learn the small ice. You play in Grand Rapids for a couple of years, then you come up. The fact that he saw some talent in this kid, and now this kid is in the lineup, skipping Grand Rapids virtually altogether, tells you the kind of talent he's got. And these are the kind of kids that Steve Yzerman has drafted. And you get Emmett Finney, a guy who made the opening night roster, a 7th-round pick. That's unheard of. 7th-round picks are lucky to play in the league, let alone at 20 years old make the opening night roster. So I think that what you see with some of these kids that made the roster It isn't just because we want to give them a chance. It isn't because we want fans to get excited about the prospects that we've drafted. It isn't because we want to distract you. It's because we want to win, and these kids can help us. And those are kids he brought here. And that's why I believe in the plan. Do I wish, and do fans wish it had happened sooner, that we'd already made the playoffs the last 2 or 3 years and be further down the line? Of course they do. But everything he said in the beginning was, we're going to do it through the draft. It's going to take time. We're going to build this thing. And he suffered through the criticism, through the second guessers, through all the doubters. He suffered through that. And now we're a bit, I think, on the other side of seeing that he was right. Building through the draft was a good idea. These are all homegrown talents. Michael Bransigniegard made the opening night roster, and he was a first-round pick. These guys are strewn throughout the lineup. They're young kids. They made the opening night roster because that's the ability they have, and for no other reason, because these guys are about winning. It's their livelihood. It's what they get paid to do. It's what they have a passion for, and they don't accept losing. Losing has been hard on these guys. So I think they believe these guys can help them energize this team and lift them to the next level this year. I think right out of the gate, we're seeing that they're beating some good competition. They beat the Maple Leafs twice. They beat the defending Stanley Cup champions just the other night, the Florida Panthers. Although they are shorthanded, it doesn't matter. They beat this team. They're beating quality opponents with kids in the lineup. So, yeah, I think they can get over the hump this year, Scott. I think that we're going to be impressed with the Yzer plan and what these kids that are a part of it show on the ice going forward. And I do believe in it, have believed in it, and I think that those who have believed in it are going to get their reward and their payoff, and it's going to come as soon as this year. So,
Trevor, let's not kid yourself. You played the game of hockey, so I'm really curious about what you think about this question. Okay, the NHL is planning to mandate neck guards for all new players starting in 2026, 27 season. What are your thoughts about what they're going to do there? Do you like the idea?
Absolutely. The game is moving faster than ever. You can't prevent some of the things that have happened. And I've seen guys, Mike Modano, when he was here, got cut with a skate blade. Darren Helm got cut with a skate blade over the wrist. These guys were out for months getting cut over the wrist. And there are guys will wear wrist guards. They now have made Kevlar socks because guys have gotten cut in the leg, been cut in their legs before. So they're trying to make socks a little more cut resistant. These guys are flying around with razor blades with steel on their feet, and they're doing it at speeds the game has never been played at right now. This game happens fast. It's a wonder more guys aren't injured. You see a fight and guys go tumbling down. The linesmen are there and the skate just misses a guy like this. Absolutely, you take every precaution. Every precaution you can think of, not even every one that's necessary. I think any precaution is necessary, but anything you can think of to keep guys safer should absolutely be implemented for these guys. They had to tell them to wear helmets. They had to force them to wear helmets. Now, obviously, that's something right now, if you think about it, doesn't make any sense, but Mickey Redmond plays hockey with me to this very day, will not wear a helmet playing a pickup skate at lunch. He's grandfathered in and everything, but if you think about it, it doesn't make sense because the game happens fast. Pucks ricochet any which way. Guys are careless with their sticks. Anything can happen. You can fall and hit your head any point in time. And certainly you can get cut in the hand, the wrist, the leg, the neck with a skate. So if you can protect yourself, absolutely do it. It's just a shame we have to be told to do it. So if they have to mandate it in order for guys to protect themselves, then go to it. But you're of the vintage, Scott. You probably remember Clint Malarchuk.
Yeah, I do.
Buffalo Sabres goaltender when he got cut.
Oh, yeah.
Right in the neck. I mean, these things can happen. It's a wonder they don't happen more. They can happen. And sure, if you have to mandate it, but protect these guys.
Being a guy,
protect themselves.
Being a guy like me who's been exposed to head injuries, you know how many times I've told you that I've had concussions and you've given me your prayers and your love and all that. And it really is hard because now it's led to my Alzheimer's diagnosis. And I'll tell you, concussions is something crazy. So, well, let me ask you another interesting hockey question, okay, that come to mind. Being a hockey guy, obviously and now football, I should say. I love talking to you about football. I'll tell you, I never thought I'd see the day we'd be having this conversation because, you know me, I've always loved the football, whether it's the NFL, and now I have college football with my toy called the Miami Hurricanes. That's a nice toy to have when you have Carson Beck, you have Captain Ward, and all that good stuff. And that's the first college football team I've ever covered was Miami Hurricanes. How do you like that? That's a new thing for you, you know. But with that
different
said,
from a New Orleans Hurricane.
Oh, yeah, I like that New Orleans. Oh, you were going to slip that one by me. Out that New Orleans Hurricane. You know what that did? That sent me way downtown bang. Was it Keith Olbermann would say that, way downtown bang? I'll tell you a Lion story one time when I was covering a New Orleans game, and then I'll get to this thing here because now you really got another story going. Hey, listen, are we having a good time? You know, at least you're cool about the time tonight as you get these extra stories that will lead to more Velvet Hammers. Mark my word, because I know you're never leaving that with that. So anyways, I covered the Lions game. That's my second marriage, thankfully my last one. But anyways, I go there and I have my ex-wife, and I got hammered again at Pat O'Brien's, and my ex-wife, you know what? She got to sleep the whole day while I'm watching the Lions game, and the Lions. I had a picture with her and they said, "Scotty, you look worse than your other half, man." I said, "Yeah, well, you know what? She got to sleep, and I'm here covering the Lions game. So you know what I did to wake up? I had that old Cajun, what is it, grits? Oh man, that Cajun grits are like, being an Orleans guy." And they say, "You look worse than ours." Yeah, I cover the game. I need a win here so that it'll take the edge off of my hangover. And boy, and Bill Keenis and Mike Pereira laughing so hard. And Bill Keenis is one of my favorite people, one of the best PR guys I've ever worked with too. And I used to have a blast when I was covering the Lions. I covered a lot of games, covered a lot of them road, and I ended up traveling on the road with them. But yeah, that New Orleans Hurricane, you bring back some unbelievable memories. It's a shame I couldn't do it before. But back to my other question, though. The NHL is considering starting in September for next year in time for the 2026 season. Do you like the idea? Because Bill Daly, the NHL's deputy commissioner, confirmed the league is pondering this. I don't know. I think it's September starts seems weird to me, but you obviously been covering the sport way longer than me. What do you think?
What was the question, Scott? What was the
all right, in other words, the NHL thinking about starting the regular season in September next year.
No brainer. Yeah, cut the preseason short, get the regular season going earlier. There's no need to be playing hockey in the middle of June. End this thing earlier. And I've always been a proponent too of a different topic, but since we're going to talk about this kind of thing, it's along the same lines. Why are we playing baseball at the end of April in Detroit? Why are you playing? I mean, the end of March in Detroit, the beginning of April. Why are you doing that? Baseball should start May the 1st. Everybody plays May the 1st opening day. Last day of the regular season is September the 15th. The playoffs start, and you never, ever play a game again in November. So March is out, April's out, November's out, and let's play these games between May and September. Condense that schedule a lot, like 30 games off right off the top. Nobody's going to miss these games in April in Detroit. Detroit, Minnesota, all these places that you have to cancel these games in April because of the weather. Eliminate all that. And nobody wants to come anyway. After opening day, nobody wants to come. But yeah, absolutely. If the NHL wants to start in September and end their season before the middle of June, say the end of May, that's all we need. Absolutely. Let's get this thing going.
I have a few more questions. You're doing great though, aren't we? I tell you, I came loaded, prepared for this thing. So the Red Wings are finally going to retire Sergei Fedorov. Are you glad they're finally going to do this?
Yes, absolutely. Again, another guy who did things nobody else could do. Maybe the best skater I've seen. That guy was just an incredibly gifted skater. But absolutely, it's overdue. Sergei Fedorov is one of the greatest Red Wings ever to put on the uniform. He's up there with anybody you want to name in franchise history as far as the greatness, the tradition, what this Red Wing is made of. Sergei Fedorov, long overdue. Congratulations. He's already in the Hall of Fame. If you're in the Hall of Fame, certainly that team might want to consider retiring your number. Yes.
Great. Now, so I'm going to ask you a question. How do you like this list? Passing yards, you got Matthew Stafford, 45,109. Rushing yard, Barry Sanders, 15,269. I'm convinced if Wayne Fonson retired, he'd have a whole lot more. Or if he was there, he'd be a lot more because I know how close Barry and Wayne were. You know, if Wayne Fonson stays there longer, we have a different number than 15,269. If you're looking for a 5-digit number, Detroit, 15,269 might win you a lot of money. And just let them know you heard it on the Motor City Badmouth show. And if you win, I don't want to know about it, but I hope you can take your fortune and do what you want with it. Receiving yards, Calvin Johnson, 11,619. Obviously, sacks, Robert Porcher became a stat in 82. He had 95.5. And interceptions were Dick LeBeau. These are unbelievable numbers, especially with the Lions. Which one impresses you more? Do you like them all?
Wow. It's hard to separate the number from the player, you know, and I'm really not sure which one of those numbers is most impressive. All those positions are so different, but Calvin Johnson was a beast. Yeah. Again, another guy who would have played longer. I don't know why he didn't, but Calvin Johnson was a beast. I think that Barry Sanders, like I said, the greatest running back of all time. So his numbers speak for themselves. But when I think about Calvin Johnson and those numbers, wow. Yeah, that guy left me very impressed. So I'm going to go with Calvin Johnson.
I'm going Barry, man.
I don't blame you. We talked about Barry already. I gave him his flowers. He's the greatest of all time. But I'm still going to give you Calvin Johnson.
I'll give you another great story. You ready for this one? I'm down in Tampa, okay? my buddy Chip Namias, who was one of the greatest PR people of all time, and the first one I ever worked with for Lauderdale Strikers. I'm down over in Tampa. I used to love. There was a period when I went to 33 straight games in a row, and I paid for it out of my pocket with my day job because I love the Lions so much, and I made a lot of good connections. And a lot of them are still I still know them today. And I've been to 4 Super Bowl games, covered 4 Super Bowls, ended up going to a 5th one so that Candy could take pictures. We still had a field day in New Orleans, and I got a million videos there. I was a wrecking machine. Well, I'll tell you, when I get these new toys, I'll let them play with them. But think about this, okay? And then he said, I love toys, man. I'm telling you, if you ever look down my playlist, you'll realize what it is. But when I think of the fact that, to me, I go to that Tampa game, and I'm a graduate from the University of South Florida, by the way, Trev. I really am. And I'm a Tampa at heart a little bit too. I'm down there seeing Barry Sanders in the team hotel, and I shook his hand. We talked a few minutes and wished him luck. He breaks 2 80-yard touchdown runs in the same game, and even Chip Namias. And that, we're not supposed to cheer in the press box, but Chip let it go and didn't even care because who the heck can not admire greatness? Right. 2 80-yards, brother. 2. You can't make these stories up. You don't believe me? Look it up. No, I know you believe me, but that's it.
I believe you.
Chip didn't care. He wasn't even cheering. Of course, that was just unbelievable. Oh, I got it. I love it.
Can I tell you a little quick story? You talk about those 2 80-yard runs.
We don't care.
Very impressive. Very impressive. This isn't about Barry Sanders, though. This was about when the Lions were terrible. Matt Millen era Lions. I was on the road in San Diego, and the Chargers and the Lions were playing. LaDainian Tomlinson went for 120-something yards in the first half and 2 touchdowns, didn't play in the second half. In the second half, Michael Turner played, went for 125 yards and 2 more touchdowns. They had 2 backs go for 100 yards each in each half with 2 touchdowns. I'd never seen that in any football game I've covered before or since, just like Barry and those 2 80-yard rips. You don't see that very often, but things you don't see very often from talented football players.
Well, let me tell you, when the Lions were starting to break that losing streak, I loved it when Rob Parker went after Rod Marinelli. Rob and I. Day. You were there with me that day?
I was there that day. I was sitting there that day, watching this going on, cringing as this one.
Well, we were both in the same place. I just didn't even know.
Cringing when this one. Wasn't it cringeworthy? It was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable.
But it was Rob that was doing it. I wasn't getting in trouble. They let him.
No, I'm not blaming you. I'm saying this moment with Rob and Marinelli was uncomfortable. Uncomfortable.
Well, that's putting it lightly.
It was cringeworthy, as I said. It was.
I know that was good.
Unnecessary, really. Unnecessary.
Well, you know what? I was egging Rob on a little bit. Nudging him.
Oh, you were you?
Yeah, I love that egging him on. At least he ain't getting in trouble. If I said it, I'd get run out of the damn place that he was. Just like I did when I met Charles Barkley a couple of years ago at NSMA down in thing. You know what, Charles? Thanks for going out there criticizing the NBA for being picking lazy with your load management. You're saying everything you'd want to do. What did that with Barkley? I stick him in the book too. Don't worry, you're going in the next with the picture, but that's. But still, you do the dirty work. All I have to do is agree with you. And I was there when Rob did it. And, Rob and I are good friends. We always have. I'll tell you one thing I feel blessed about Detroit. When I have guys like Tom Gage, Joe Falls, and Jerry Green, and all these people that are like mentors to me, it's unbelievable. So I want to tell you another Joe Falls story, and then we have one more question or comment, whatever we have after this one. But I'll never forget Joe Falls. I pulled a fast one on him in Pittsburgh. I really did. You ready for this one? And I tell you, I know how to have a poker face like anybody else. I do have one. I'm giving you stories. I'm gladly I can do this tonight with you. But Joe Falls, I'm walking up to him, putting my arm around Joe because we got along great, Joe and I. Joe, I got a real source, but I got to tell you just between me and you. Don't tell nobody. I'm just give you the scoop on this one. My sources are telling me, okay, that the Atlanta Falcons are going to go out there and draft Elvis Scarback. I just have a good source that tells me that. Now he's interested. He really isn't. All right, Scotty, I need to know this one. I got this guy right where I want him. I love this guy. He's like a father to me anyways, because every time I need advice, he's always there to give it to me. Well, here's the deal. Jerry Glanville was the coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And what do you think he did once upon a time?
What do you do?
He left 2 tickets for Elvis Presley to
Yeah.
defend the press. So I told him, I said the Atlanta Falcons are going to draft Elvis Grbac because if he couldn't get Elvis Presley, he's going to get Elvis Grbac. And Joe looked at me and started laughing. He said, "That's a good one. You really had me." It's like, "Come on, Joe. We're pals, aren't we?" He said, "Yeah, we are, but that was good. I love that." So that when I was going through my first divorce, and Joe knew how to read me really good, Chuck. He really did. "You don't look right, Scotty. We need to talk." Because he took me under his wing and told me he got divorced after 25 years, got it right the second time. Well, because he knew I wasn't right mentally. Because it was hard. The first time you go through that sort of situation, it sucks. But he got me straight. I got married second time. You know what the hell I ended up with? I ended up with you know who, and you know who, and you don't need a velvet hammer with her. I mean, she's a doll. But I'll tell you, all the people I met, man, over the year, Joe Ball, you, and all these people. I teach these young people. If you don't go out there and have good relationships, you're missing the whole thing. You're right. This day and age, this new media business, all these people that every time Dick and Harry can have a microphone, great, go ahead. I'll go out there and have your glory. I have a book and I'm working on another one. If this Alzheimer's, I'll tell you, here's the thing. If I can't write it, I'm going to find somebody to help me write it, but at least gather all the outline information while I can. But we'll see how that one plays out. But the reality is, I think today's generation just doesn't understand that, we knew what it was like to really work for everything. The podcasts are good for us nowadays to occupy time. We live with the media when it was great. So, I know you've had a lot of great years with the Red Wings and the Tigers. How do you like what you're doing with the Lions, and what else do you have going on at the moment?
I love what I'm doing with the Lions right now because I work with a great guy, and I don't really work directly with the Lions. I work for the Believe Network, and the Believe Network has a network of podcasts and sports, lifestyle, and entertainment, over 500 different podcasts that they've got. So I'm a part of their network. All the infrastructure is already built in, so it's a plug and play thing. So that made it very easy for me to say yes to the opportunity. But now that I've said yes to the opportunity, working alongside Glover Quinn, the former Lion, all pro at what he did, but an all-pro person, just a wonderful guy to work with. Got a great sense of humor, very knowledgeable about the game, still in touch, still has passion. So being able to work with him, learn from him, learn about the game from him has been just a whole lot of fun and something I didn't see coming. And after working on hockey and baseball and basketball for the last 25 years, having this opportunity to get back in with the Lions and do something like this from home, doing a podcast, checking out how the new generation does things, and having this opportunity has just been really enlightening in a lot of ways, but refreshing too in a lot of ways. So having a lot of fun with that. And I'm really hoping the Lions go far and that we can really get some momentum going with this podcast as far as that goes. And by the time they get to the Super Bowl, we've got a great viewership going, and all kinds of fun things have happened in between. So that's been a lot of fun. I'll still do a little bit of Red Wings hockey for FanDuel Sports this year. We'll see how much it turns out to be by the end of the season. And going into next year, I'm really not sure, Scott. You get in this place right now where you get to slow down, reevaluate things, take a deep breath, and reset and re-energize yourself, and maybe come up with some new ideas and look at some new opportunities, and some things might happen that you don't see coming right now. So I'll be looking forward to maybe that happening as well. So I'm just keeping myself open to some new ideas and new possibilities, and just enjoying some more downtime, home time, family time now that I'm not running all over the country 200 nights a year or more. That's been a blessing in disguise. So just taking it all in right now, brother. Smelling the roses, smelling the roses.
Yeah, no, that's amazing how you say that. So do you think hockey is in your future? Because I know you dipped into play-by-play when you were doing a little bit of emergency work a little bit. I thought you did pretty well. I think you're a little too hard on yourself because they stuck you in the fire and nothing.
It's so fast. Oh, Scott, I'll just tell you a really quick story about how that happened. This was when we were at Little Caesars Arena. We were in a pregame show, and my producer gets in my ear, Mary Brady. She gets in my ear and says, "Trevor, go up to the gondola. Ken Daniels has COVID. Get up there now." I said, "What for?" She goes, "Trevor, I haven't got time to argue with you. Go up there. You're doing play-by-play. You're calling the game." He's got COVID. So we had to test at the arena. So I'm going up to the gondola, and I've got my cell phone in my hand. I kept looking at it as I was walking step by step. I wanted my phone to ring, or I wanted a text to pop up and say, "Trevor, you've got COVID too. You have to leave the building." I didn't want to call that game because that's how Daniels found out. We got tested pregame because you had to get tested. He got tested and said he was positive. He had to leave the building. So it all happened last minute. I kept saying, I want to get COVID too. I want to go home. I don't want to do this. But I got up there, I was a bundle of nerves, and I just looked to my left, and there was Mickey Redmond going through his notes. I said, this can only go so bad because this guy is a pure genius. He's got this. So I knew I'd always have Mickey Redmond to lean on in that situation. But it was a lot of fun. The game moves fast. Calling NHL play-by-play is harder than it looks and way harder than you can imagine, but it was a lot of fun. So
me personally,
I would love to do it. I would love to do it for a living. I would love to do it, but it's there's a lot more to it than saying I'd love to do it.
Well, me personally, I love baseball and football, and I did cover the Florida Panthers one year. It was great, but I covered 21 of 26 games. What happened? I never got a playoff pass, which really stunk because they ended up bringing some of these other ones that came out of the closet to do it. But I didn't mind. They put me on I still went on the Zoom call, but it wasn't the same. But it's okay. I have no bitter feelings towards the Florida Panthers, but I'm a Red Wings guy at heart. So what was it like this summer not doing Tiger games at all? Was it nice just to have the summer up? I know the Tigers went out there and they collapsed, but they still made it to the playoffs. But how did it feel just to not cover the Tigers? I know you worked very hard to do it, and you're right. It's time to be able to smell the roses.
It felt amazing to not have to get on a plane this week, to not have to go down to the ball. Like, not that I don't like baseball or anything, but the time off, like when you're 30 years into this thing, 30 years deep, and like I said, 200 nights or more a year on the road, and you're away, and you're every game, every season, and it just goes around and around and around. Your life goes by, and you really never have time to hit the pause button. When you hit the pause button, you appreciate it. So it happening during the summer, and the summer in Michigan this year was simply fantastic. To be able to spend some time with the family, to be able to sleep in, to be able to golf, to be able to just do whatever I wanted to do or do nothing at all for the first time, and actually sink into that, lean into that was necessary. And I appreciated it. So it was a great summer being able to just do that. Yeah, it was a great summer, Scott. And to be able to watch the Tigers from afar and cheer them on and look at the wonderful season that they had was fun.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm at a point now. What you and I talk about my medical situation. Let me tell you exactly what it is. I don't mind telling everybody. I'm dealing with the onset of Alzheimer's. I was diagnosed about a year ago, and it's been a real battle. I mean, I have my days that are good, and I have my bad. But because they say I have to just maintain a lot of activity, that's how I'm able to fight this thing. I don't drive quite as much, but I'm not afraid to do it. But now so what I ended up doing, Trev, is I went out there and applied for early Social Security at 62, which I was able to get. And now I'm able, like you did, sit back and still smell the roses, embrace a new generation, being thankful I was in it when it was really good, so I could reflect and write a little bit more. And now I'm hooked on international travel. Don't plan to do a lot more domestically until I get certain things out. I'm addicted to cruises, so if I could get there and take videos spontaneously and meet people, that's great. But that's the thing. As I get older, when I have people like you, well, obviously one of the closest people in my life, and a bunch of other people, this is what I have to do now. I don't, write as much because it's hard for me to be able to stay concentrated because you're hyper all the time trying to stay active. So it's not easy to sit still and be able to sedate yourself and write. But I will when my back is to the wall. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, like you. When you get to our age and you've been in the business decades, I've been in it in December, it'll be 47 years. A lot of it on the air, a lot of it writing, and a lot of doing new things like old school media versus new school. I'm with you, Trev. We have to be able to sit back and appreciate what we've done, because I'm convinced that the younger generation will never sniff what we're doing. Not knocking them, but the players are different and the access is a lot different as well. And I'm with you. I'm ready to sit back, relax, and just travel. And what can I say? And you have an opportunity on a night like tonight talking to me, no question, the greatest person that I know. Trevor, to me, I knew going into this, I'm not one of those kind of people that gets emotional, and I don't. But, every now and then I show a little crack. No, I'm not crying, so don't worry about that. I'm just doing that stuff. But I knew going into this show, it was going to be a much different animal than anything else I've ever done, because I wasn't just talking to a normal guest. I was talking to a guy that I view as a brother, and that's what you are to me, Trevor. I'm not mind telling you on a live mic, okay, that I love you very much, Trevor. You mean everything in the world. I miss those hugs. I miss when I see you down there. I look forward to getting out there. But I love you more than any person on the planet. And God's my witness. And
Candy might contest that.
Well, no, I'm telling you, she knows how close we are. Get out here, Candy. Because we've been talking about this for a while now. I can tell you. And make sure you can. There we go. But she knows I've been thinking about this one for a long time. And Candy, what have I been like talking about Thompson for a while?
His face lights up like every time he talks about him, and he was just so excited when you said yes, and the time worked out, and you guys could figure out when he could get you on a program. He was just really excited. It's really great to see.
Well, it's great to see both of you guys. It really is.
Candy, tell what's been like to have to take care of me under these rough situations here. And I don't mean to be making people feel bad, but she's the one person. Well, I have this YouTube channel, at least on one thing, when I go down quietly in my concrete nap, which I will be in Milwaukee when my time is up, upstairs. I don't want to go underneath where they could go eat me alive. They got to have to go north to the North Pole in a concrete nap to do it. Not that I should be putting this information on there. But Candy, tell Trevor and the rest of the people that what it's been like, as I keep battling through these challenges to deal with me.
Well, you've always been a handful. Come on, whether you're no matter what. So, I mean, it's been doctor's appointments and everything like that, but it's all good. You have a good attitude. You stay positive. And that's one thing I guess I admire most is even though you know what's happening and you feel yourself slipping a little bit here and there, you still stay positive and you still throw yourself into your work and put yourself 100% into what you believe in, and that's what I admire most.
Thanks. That's what you have to do to battle. And by the way, Smoking Jeremy, you've been a star with me for a long time, but this is your best act ever in the chat room, and I'm sure Trevor Thompson has taken notice of kneecap fighting with the Motor City Madmouth Lions, Motor City Madmouth Lions. Maybe you have to re-trademark that. I traded that mark. That don't worry, Ballrick. We'll put it on our expense account, Motor City Madmouth Lions. Go figure. No, I'm not. That's where the Alzheimer's is kicking in. So guess what, Candy? Why don't you let Trevor know what you have coming up on Fire Up with Smoking Jeremy B and a few other guys. I got a 14-year-old guy out here I'm trying to develop, and I'm hard on this kid, but he's doing okay early on. But let Trevor know about your show.
So tonight, after this, following this on Fire Up, we are going to be talking about NFL, and we're going to be talking about how we feel the officiating has been in this season and how it has affected games and played a role in some of the outcomes of some of the games. We're also going to be talking about MLB playoffs and, of course, college football. Like Scott says, we have a young kid that's starting to really get in the business, and he's actually been in the business for 4 years so far, and he is a knowledge machine when it comes to college football. So looking forward to him being back on the program and us mentoring him. So excited for Fire Up next.
I like plucking these kids out of nowhere and trying to see what I can do, rough them up and build them up and develop them. You know what? I'm going to give you a new nickname tonight, Trevor, because I know you're never going to forget it. Trevor Velvet Hammer Thompson.
Hit me with it. Hit me with it, big fella.
I did hit you with it. You did what you want. Oh, but anyways, so all right, one more station break here with myself, Trevor Velvet Hammer Thompson. Hope everybody's enjoyed this show. I don't know if they've enjoyed it as much as I have, but I'm going to tell you something. This is a memorable one, baby, and that's why you have YouTube channels, so you can go out there and put these in the memory bank. Because I remember years ago when people passed away, if you're lucky to save one answering machine, but I got thousands of videos that people will never forget me for all the right or wrong reasons, depending on what side of the end you are. But go ahead, Candy, one more station break.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the business. It even has a picture of a young Scott with a young Muhammad Ali. So you got to go get the book. Check it out. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content. So go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you see the red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, click it, like us, share us, and then tell all your friends and family, and then turn on the notifications so you're notified every time we go live. You don't want to miss any of our great programming. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you want to be a guest or have show ideas or topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Or better yet, you can come in the chat room and start chatting up and interacting with us. We love interacting with our guests. So, Scott, back to you.
Well, Trevor, I hope I didn't wear you out too bad tonight, man. I know it's a little bit longer than we projected, but hey, when we're throwing these stories back and forth, I guess I got a little bit longer than I thought. But I hope you didn't mind it too bad.
Worth every single second, my friend. Every single second.
Well, Bette Midler, I'm going to put you on as a hashtag. Trevor, did you know you're my hero? You are, man. It's okay, because right now it is what it is. You're my hero, and I don't know, but you are. You're a hero to me, and that's all I can say. Bette, you just got to hashtag this because I put your name out there, and I don't know what they want to call me. I've heard everything on the planet, so what's the difference? but anyway,
I'll tell you what, Scott, I really admire and appreciate your spirit, your resilience, your positivity that Candy spoke to, and just regardless of what's going on, you just uplift people and uplift yourself each and every day and keep going back at it, and it's incredible to see. So I'll keep continuing to give you all the praise and pray for you, buddy, because I really do admire the way you go about life, and I want more of that in myself. So love you, man. You take care of yourself, and love Candy too. It's great to see you guys tonight.
Well, you know what, Trevor? I love you very much. Look forward to seeing you one day, and looking forward to being able to get you my book, delivering it. Otherwise, Candy's going to get it to you. But right now, this is just another chapter in our memory, that we have that we can always take for sure and cherish. So, Trevor, like I said, you're the best, and I'm just glad we had an opportunity to spend some time this evening here on the Motor City Mad Mouth Show. And at some point, I'll calm down. I probably will a little while. Candy takes over the wheel. Once again, Jeremy, glad that you were able to spend some time here with us tonight. So you're probably the unofficial guest here in the chat room. Candy, well, she's everything, and you, Trevor, you're the greatest, man. You and Muhammad Ali have something in common. You're the greatest, man. Okay?
I appreciate you.
So on behalf of Trevor Thompson, my name is Scott Morgan. Thank you for joining us on the Motor City Mad Mouth Show. We'll have a new episode next week, so hope you can join us. Fire Up is next with Candy, Jeremy, and the rest of her group, and I call it In the Country Club. Of course, she relaxes. She's a great person. She's a Green Bay girl. They know relax. Me, relax? No, I don't know what it is, but we'll see. Love you, Trev. Glad to have you on. We'll be in touch soon. So good night, everybody, from the Motor City Mad Mouth Show. Scott Morgan Roth, along with Trevor Velvet Hammer Thompson, and I know he'll never forget that. Okay, good night, everybody.